The spaceship hummed with a dull, monotonous thrum. Inside its sterile, metallic cafeteria, 4 scientists were gathered around a table, attempting to engage in dinner conversation. Their trays were laden with the usual assortment of freeze-dried delicacies and nutrient paste that passed for haute cuisine in the vast emptiness of space. Lisa Chen mused, her fork hovering over a dubious-looking blob of mashed potatoes. Millions, billions of stars out there, and we're supposed to believe we're alone? Lisa, the team's astrophysicist, was a staunch believer in extraterrestrial life, a stance often met with playful skepticism from her colleagues. The universe is a big place, Lisa, Dr. Mark Jenkins, the mission's biologist, countered, his tone laced with amusement. Plenty of room for disappointment. But the Fermi paradox, interjected Dr. Emily Davis, the mission's ever-optimistic communications specialist. Where are all the aliens, right? Emily, ever the optimist, saw the lack of alien contact as a thrilling mystery waiting to be solved. Maybe they're all just hiding from us, Dr. John Kim, the mission's stoic engineer, quipped from behind his datapad. Their spirited discussion was abruptly punctuated by a deafening clang, followed by a series of metallic groans emanating from the depths of the spaceship. The lights flickered ominously. Food trays clattered to the floor as the scientists scrambled to their feet, their eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and apprehension. "What was that?" Emily exclaimed, her voice edged with a tremor of fear. "I don't know," Mark responded, his gaze darting around the room, but it didn't sound good. Suddenly, the wall opposite them crumpled inward, as if struck by an invisible force. Through the breach, a pulsating, otherworldly glow illuminated the stunned faces of the scientists. A strange spherical object, no bigger than a beach ball, came hurtling through the opening, bouncing off the ceiling before landing with a dull thud on the table. The scientists stared at the object, their breaths caught in their throats, their minds struggling to process the impossible. It was a sphere, perfectly smooth, shimmering with an internal ethereal light. It pulsed rhythmically, casting eerie shadows that danced across the cafeteria walls. Then, something even stranger happened. From the bottom of the sphere, 2 small webbed feet popped out, followed by another 2. The sphere wobbled precariously on its newfound appendages, resembling nothing more than a pool ball with duck feet. Is it wearing a tiny space helmet? John squinted, peering at the sphere through his thick glasses. This is it? Mark finally broke the silence, his voice a mixture of disbelief and disappointment. This is the first contact we've been waiting for? A duck on a disco ball? The initial shock began to give way to a flurry of questions, each more absurd than the last. Lisa, ever the scientist, was already reaching for her datapad, eager to document the encounter. Emily, her initial fear replaced by childlike curiosity, inched closer to the table, her eyes glued to the waddling sphere. John, ever the pragmatist, was already scanning the room for potential threats, his hand instinctively reaching for a wrench he always carried in his belt. "Do you think it's dangerous?" Emily whispered, her eyes still glued to the bizarre creature. "Only one way to find out," John muttered, brandishing his wrench. "John, no," Lisa hissed. "We don't know anything about it. What if it's friendly?" "Friendly?" Mark scoffed. "It just crashed our spaceship and looks like a rejected prop from a low-budget sci-fi film. Guys, maybe we should just ask it nicely to leave?" Emily suggested, her voice a beacon of reason in the escalating chaos. Section 5, First Contact Protocol totally busted. Before John could launch his ill-advised attack, Lisa grabbed a nearby serving spoon.
"Hold it right there, John. We are not going to solve this with a wrench." "Oh, come on, Lisa. You're seriously suggesting we fight this thing with a spoon? Hey, this spoon has seen things. It's been to the edge of the galaxy and back. Guys, focus. The alien. It's doing something.
The scientists turned their attention back to the table. The sphere had stopped waddling and was now rotating slowly, its pulsating light intensifying. The tiny space helmet on top seemed to tilt slightly, as if the creature inside was observing them.
I think it's trying to communicate. Maybe we should try talking to it.
Section 6. A symphony of screams and flying spatulas. Ignoring Mark's sarcasm, Emily cleared her throat and addressed the sphere in a calm, measured tone.
Greetings. We come in peace. We mean you no harm.
The sphere remained silent, its pulsating light growing even brighter, casting the cafeteria in an otherworldly glow. Then, without warning, it launched itself into the air, its duck feet paddling furiously. It zoomed past Emily's head, narrowly missing her, and collided with the startled John. John roared as the sphere bounced off his chest and landed on the floor, its tiny space helmet askew. Seizing the opportunity, Lisa lunged forward, her trusty spoon at the ready. S1! Ah!
I've got it. I've got it.
With a swift, practiced motion, she scooped the sphere off the ground, trapping it within the bowl of the spoon. The sphere wobbled precariously in its makeshift prison, its duck feet kicking wildly. It emitted a series of high-pitched squeaks and whistles, its pulsating light flickering erratically. Section 7. Alien Autopsy, Soup Ladle Style. With the sphere temporarily subdued, a strange calm settled over the cafeteria.
Well, that was interesting.
John, his initial panic subsiding, lowered his spatula, his eyes fixed on the wriggling creature trapped within the spoon.
Now what do we do with it? We need to figure out what it is, where it came from, and what it wants.
Emily, ever the voice of reason, suggested they move the sphere to the lab for further examination.
Microscopes, lasers, maybe one of those fancy DNA sequencers we've got lying around. Don't forget the rubber gloves. Wouldn't want to catch whatever space flu that thing might be carrying.
Section 8. Quacking Up. The alien speaks through charades. The lab, usually a sanctuary of sterile silence, buzzed with nervous energy as the scientists gathered around the examination table. The captured sphere, still nestled within the confines of the soup ladle, had ceased its frantic struggling. It now sat eerily still, its pulsating light dimming to a soft, rhythmic glow. "Right," Lisa announced, adjusting her protective goggles. "Let's see if we can coax some answers out of this little guy." Using a pair of tongs, she carefully extracted the sphere from the ladle and placed it under a high-powered microscope. The scientists huddled closer, their eyes glued to the monitor, eager for their first glimpse into the biology of an extraterrestrial being. What they saw wasn't what they expected. Instead of complex organs or alien tissues, the microscope revealed a chaotic jumble of what appeared to be glowing rubber duckies. "What in the—" John began, his voice laced with disbelief. As if on cue, the sphere began to pulsate again, its light intensifying. The rubber duckies on the monitor swirled and shifted, forming a series of increasingly complex patterns. Section 9. The Fermi Paradox. Solved, not so fast. As the scientists watched, mesmerized, the rubber ducky light show continued. The sphere, it seemed, was attempting to communicate through a series of increasingly elaborate pictograms. A stick figure drawing of the sphere itself, a crude representation of a much larger, more complex object, presumably the sphere's mothership. And then, most alarmingly, a series of images that could only be interpreted as an impending invasion? "Oh no," Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the lab equipment. "This is not good. Invasion?" John scoffed, his skepticism returning in full force. "You're telling me that this glowing bath toy, is the vanguard of an alien invasion force? Before anyone could contemplate the implications of this alarming revelation, the sphere's light show abruptly ended. The pulsating glow faded to black. Section 10. Duck, duck, boom. They didn't have long to ponder the fate of their unexpected visitor. The silence in the lab was shattered by a deafening, bone-jarring roar. The floor beneath them vibrated violently. Emergency lights flickered erratically, casting long, distorted shadows across the frantic scene. "What's happening?" Emily screamed, her voice barely audible above the cacophony. "I don't know," John yelled back, grabbing onto a nearby workbench to steady himself. "But I don't think it's good." A red pulsating light, originating from somewhere deep within the bowels of the ship, began to engulf the corridor outside the lab. The air crackled with energy. The stench of burning metal filled their nostrils. "We have to get out of here," Lisa shouted, her voice barely a whisper above the deafening roar that now seemed to be consuming the entire ship. They didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled towards the lab door, their eyes wide with terror, their hearts pounding against their ribs. But it was too late. Section 11. Epilogue, Space Debris, and a Side of Existential Dread. The vast emptiness of space, once a canvas of serene silence, was now marred by a swirling cloud of debris. Twisted metal, shattered glass, and countless fragments of what was once a cutting-edge spaceship drifted aimlessly through the void, a silent testament to the fleeting nature of existence. And somewhere, amidst the wreckage, bobbed a single solitary rubber ducky, its once cheerful yellow now faded to a ghostly white, a silent, ironic survivor of a cosmic joke it could never hope to understand. The Fermi paradox, it seemed, remained unsolved.